top trends fueling the crypto bull run.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the AIBC Stage. And first off, we're going to discuss, of course, the top trends fueling the crypto bull run. And together with me are three wonderful speakers on stage today. So for those watching online and those here with us, thank you for actually coming over. And we're inviting everyone who wants to learn more about the top trends in the crypto bull run to come and take your seats here in the AIBC Stage. My name is Prof. Toff. I'm currently Bitget's business development manager, and definitely we can learn a lot more about crypto, the bull run, from these wonderful speakers and panelists together with me today. So let's start off with Miss Jen of Coins.ph. A round of applause, please. The country manager, yeah, you can sit here. And we have Arthur of FilLiquid. A round of applause, please. Welcome to AIBC. And we have one more later, so let's just get to know two of our main panelists for today. Yes, we have one more coming. Hopefully she arrives. But let's start off with our stories, because we all started in crypto somewhere down the line. And a lot of newbies will be watching this online or here. They want to know and want to relate how we all started in crypto. Maybe you can say a short story about how you started in crypto. Let's start with Miss Jen.
Sure, I'm sure. Good to see you again, Prof. Toff. We've been in a lot of panels together. My story actually started, I came from investment banking background. So I'm one of those that never believed in crypto. I've always frowned upon it. Coming from a TradFi, right? Because I was snooty little young investment banker then. So a lot of my friends, 2014, 2015, right around the time when Coins was started, talked to me about Bitcoin, etc. And at that time, the price was kind of fairly speculative, not a lot of adoption. So I let it slide. A lot of my friends went into it, and I was just watching from the background. And when there were busts, I would always tell them, "Okay, I'll take care of the bill. I'll take care of our food because I know you guys are kind of, a bit poor at that time." And then when I saw institutional adoption, I think the one of the ways in which I kind of sort of believed in blockchain was when Ethereum happened, when smart contracts happened. I didn't know if there was a real use case for it or there will be adoption. But things changed when the last bull run. A good friend of mine said, "I'm raising capital for my startup. Why don't you try to help me?" Because I was an M&A banker. I raised capital for a living, and I said, "Fine, I'll help you on the side." I was enjoying my corporate life, helping companies do IPO, etc. And then after a while, we've raised a good amount of money, and it was just 5 of us racing on an idea. And I was like, this will disenfranchise my job. I said, it took me 1 year before to raise by an IPO. And for a small startup with 5 people, we've raised about 21 million in a span of 5 days. And I was like...
Amazing.
And that changed me. Like, I was like, I think this is a good way for raising liquidity for a Filipino project. And one thing led to another. I left my job. I was the general manager of that company. And then Coins came knocking in, and then they said, "Why don't you join us to lead our exchange?" And it's the best of both worlds because we're an e-wallet, we're a payment processor, and at the same time, we're the largest crypto exchange here in the Philippines. So I was like, they would benefit from my finance background and my crypto knowledge. So here I am.
Yes, and that deserves a clap because not everyone can raise 21 million in 5 days. And you mentioned you were not a believer of the blockchain space in the beginning until Ethereum happened. And I think a lot of those in the audience did not believe in crypto in the beginning, especially if there's not adoption happening, there's a lot of speculation, especially if you're talking about finance. So as the years went by, we all come to see the value of the industry itself. And maybe the audience as well get to see what the value of this industry moving forward is. 2024 and forward, because the ETFs recently has just been approved for Bitcoin and Ethereum. So maybe let's move on to Sir Arthur. Is it your first time here in the Philippines?
Yes, mabuhay. Good morning.
Mabuhay. Let's welcome
Good
Arthur
morning.
here in the Philippines.
It's not the first time. It's my second time.
Second time. All right.
Second time being again in the Philippines, and I have to say one thing: it's always more fun to be in the Philippines. Actually, Philippines has changed so much in the last 8 years, and what a shame I haven't been here since the lockdown era.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Yeah, so really enjoying myself over here. I just have the opportunity to be seeing Philippines is the integrated resort. It's amazing. So huge change, and the airport, so tremendous changes as well. Coming back to how it really started, so the blockchain, the Web3. So I've been in investment, finance, technology for the last 15 years. I started my earlier careers in fund management companies like Franklin Templeton, Arro Asset Management, representing the largest independent financial advisory organization over back in Singapore. I was managing a total up to portfolio of 50 million American dollars. And that was really a lot of the traditional finance and the capital markets. And then after that, a little bit itchy. And then I started off with my era of startup, because I realized hey, startup is it's all about you build and sell. And that's where in the year of 2014, 2015, when the Silicon Valley was right at the most bullish time, right? So yeah, I started off something. I created my own startup. So in fact, just to really for the interest of time, I ran 3 startups, which I wasn't really the techie guy, but to me, it's always hiring people who are far more intelligent than me, which allowed me to exit as one of my startups and deliver a 3x of MOIC to my investors. And the point is when I exited my startup, and I realized okay, what's next in the financial market? I've already been in the capital markets, in the financial market, and in the startup. What's next? What can I do? So there was one time I was hanging out with a friend of mine. We were drinking, and that night I was drinking until I think I was a bit tipsy. Somebody was mentioning to me about cryptocurrency, and that was in the years of 2017, end of 2017, or just right before Christmas. And that was at that time that was the previous bull run, and that was the first time when we saw that the retail markets after the ICO, Bitcoin went up to 19,000. For those folks who were in the scene since that time, and then he only asked me one question when we were drinking, and we were drinking a lot. He only asked me this question: Arthur, do you believe the government actually managing your money well? And I told him, no, I don't. And then after that, why not? You explore into cryptocurrency. And that's what I asked him. Oh, what's cryptocurrency? Yeah, he explained everything is about cryptocurrencies. There's no intermediaries. It's decentralized. Even the creators, Satoshi Nakamoto, the Bitcoin founder, nobody knows him at all. What do you mean? So he shared with me about Ethereum. And that night itself, I actually went back. I studied Ethereum white paper. Imagine me being tipsy, drinking probably a couple of bottles of wine, going back to read the Ethereum white paper. I was fascinated. These words of the white paper of what Vitalik Buterin has wrote.
Vitalik is the guy.
Illuminated in my eyes, a glow on my eyes. And I was thinking, this is something. This is groundbreaking. This is going to be something instrumental to really be a pivotal point in the financial markets. And since then, there was really no turning back. In honesty, I started off first by going into the financial implications, the financial part of it. But I realized it really wasn't so much about the crypto gains, the profit gains, but it was more of the decentralized economy and the blockchain technology, that what could really bring a tremendous value to the humankind's life value. And since then, I was very much involved in the crypto space by becoming an investor with the mining rigs. And I'm sure a lot of yours can relate this story. the person who introduced me is the crypto and the blockchain space ended up conning me. So I bought this number of mining rigs, and turned out to be like he says, oh, the mining rigs were gone. And I said, what do you mean? And I'm sure a lot of you can relate that story.
Yeah.
And that was how it started. And since then, after that, I realized that, okay, this is very interesting. The person who told me about cryptocurrency now cheated my money. And where am I going to head to? And then I realized that it was after the lockdowns. That's where I really went very heavily into it. I was running my own previous venture studio, incubated several projects, helping them for fundraising. Fast forward, right now, spearheading the FilLiquid, which is a lending and borrowing protocol for the Filecoin ecosystem, which I will dive in a little bit more much later on.
All right, thank you so much, Arthur. And just to recap, we have here 2 startup founders who eventually went into their own company, and the country manager for Coins.ph, which is the biggest, what they call this, the biggest authorized, regulated crypto exchange here in the Philippines. And definitely we have here our 3rd panelist on stage, Miss Pat. Let's give her a round of applause, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. I'm late.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us. We would want to know more about you, Miss Pat. Why don't you share your story on how you started in crypto?
It's gonna be a long story. So anyway, I'll make it short and very quick. I started 6 years ago. I started the same thing I'm doing now. So I started building community, but it's way different before. Before you will just buy Telegram members, and you think like you have a lot of community members for your project, right? But recently it became like more and more genuine in terms of building community. It gets more real, right? It gets more physical, like present, right? Especially for Polkadot when I joined last year. So when you're in the very technical community, you cannot cheat that, right? Like because you will see how many builders there is for your protocol. So yeah, from 6 years ago, it's the same thing I'm doing now. I'm building community in Asia. I was building community for crypto.com here in the Philippines, and also Bybit, but it's more like global. So now I'm the lead contributor for Polkadot Southeast Asia. It's an ecosystem, so there's no really like a company like like Ethereum Foundation. So we have Web3 Foundation for Polkadot. So yeah, for Southeast Asia, I'm building community for developers.
That's very interesting. And for those who are here in the audience today, we have a community builder. We have a startup CEO, DeFi. We have an exchange. And they had experience in TradFi and a lot more. So for those who are into startups or looking to start their own, these are people you can tap into as well. So as we move to the main topic about the top trends fueling the bull run, let's ask our panel today, what do they think is fueling the crypto bull run? Who wants to go first?
Thought among the roses.
Okay.
Yep. So
go.
start off first. I think this bull run, welcome to the year of halving. I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's a year that where everyone is looking forward to it. But I think the biggest difference between this bull and as compared to the other bull, of course, we have talked about the institution players. We have talked a lot about the trends. But I think one thing what we're going to see right now, it's really about the mass adoption in the Web 2. More and more projects are building projects to bridge between the digital world and also the real world as well. So of course, we start off first with the Bitcoin. This year, besides in the year of halving, it's all about the Bitcoin and also the Ethereum ETF, where Bitcoin ETF was approved early this year. As to today, we already have we have seen already $60 billion dollars.
That's a big amount.
That's a big amount, and for the first time ever, it really welcomes retails to actually be investing in digital assets. And this is just going to be increasing. I remember there was a chart, it shows that the adoption of the gold ETF and Bitcoin ETF, and Bitcoin it's like ETF was adopted by the users just within a month, which is inequivalent to gold ETF in the last 10 years. So there's an immense interest as just in the digital assets. And of course, recently, just like two weeks ago, we saw the SEC has also approved the spot Ethereum ETF, which will be listed. And everyone is just talking, okay, Ethereum being the second largest digital asset, we're going to see definitely more liquidity to be pumping in. So I think this has already shown us that where it's going to the retailers to really be increasing and to be adopting in the digital assets and the awareness of cryptocurrencies. And of course, hopefully everything will be mooning 1 year from now. But in terms of infrastructure, I think very interestingly, we're also seeing infrastructures like deepened infrastructure, the decentralized or physical infrastructure, that where it's really also bridging both by tokenizing this real world assets, bridging the gap between the physical world and also the digital products as well, and incentivizing them by using the blockchain and distributed ledger network. And with that, we see for example, Filecoin, that's being an amazing deep infrastructure. It works exactly the same as if you heard of Airbnb, this is an Airbnb for data storage. It allows people who have access to data storage to really be renting it out, and also to be purchasing data storage at anywhere and anywhere. And I think that's really huge, and that's what we're talking there's a real use case. There's a use case utilities. There's a real utilities, and people are actually adopting it simply because of that. And then we go into what we say is the AI and the blockchain is a perfect marriage between of these two verticals. While AI is by using the intelligence, and of course with blockchain it stores the data, immutable and permissionless, and all this is it's what we call the perfect matchmaking in heaven. And then we see the real. So we also seeing the real world assets. Recently, I think I came across this very interesting project which I've been following, and BlackRock has been investing very heavily. The Ondo Finance, and it's decentralizing. It's a DeFi protocol, and really giving good yields to the individuals. And you're able to be they're tokenizing all these real world assets, and with that you were able to be generating high interest values in that. So by looking at all that, I think this is where we'll really be feeling the entire crypto adoption, and I think we're seeing immense interest that's really coming from the Web 2, or some say Web 2.5.
Yeah, just to summarize what I got from you, Arthur. So there's regulators actually accepting crypto right now. That's with the Bitcoin and the Ethereum ETFs. And for the most part, real world use case. And that's probably the best thing that's going to happen, because the digital space and the real world space has been merging slowly but surely. And definitely, I think Ms. Jen has her thoughts on her answer as well.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Just to supplement what Arthur mentioned, right? So you'll see an overlap or a transition from retail speculative users from the top, like you can call it blue chip tokens. So there will be a handoff from speculative nature, which are short-term retail, to institutional investors. So you will see the blue chip through ETFs. You'll see more stability in that price, because price discoverability will be more long-term. It's not easy to sell an ETF, right? Or you have to call your broker, etc. So you'll see the blue chip tokens stabilize over time, or achieve price discovery at that point. Now, for other themes, there will always be themes in every bull run. Every bull run will be driven historically by Bitcoin prices, because that's where you go down like the mother coin, and basically when people have liquidity, they move down the ladder. You'll see it, themes, deepen, AI. We've seen that play, the AI tokens pump. We'll see they're now rebranding themselves as community tokens, rather than calling themselves meme tokens. So there are some people who are rebranding themselves as community tokens. But I think there's some pros and cons to that. But overwhelmingly, I think I can pivot that to Asia, right? So how that translates to Asia. Philippines is a good sandbox for deepen projects to look into, because you will be tapping into existing community that were brought about by gaming. Gaming is still a good trend to follow, primarily because that's where you can bring in the number of users, maybe not in terms of LTV, right? Not on volume, not on ARPU, but mainly on the number of users, because that's where you bring in more into your ecosystem. Any ecosystem play, any blockchain play will have gaming if that's what you're looking into. Payments and any RWAs will take time because you're talking to institutions. We'll see that transpire through stable coins. It's not gonna be. It will be. Bringing in institutions will be a combination of something that they understand. I've been talking to a lot of banks. I've been talking to a lot of regulators, and the way that you bring them in and move their activity on chain will have to go through existing framework in their mind, like existing mindset and existing framework in their existing companies. So RWAs, I'm very bullish about that. But in terms of like, if you're asking me about tokens pumping in the next couple of cycles, community tokens, RWAs, deepens, and AI will pump. But in terms of use case, I think RWAs, anything that touches along those lines, driven by infrastructure plays, will mature well. And Asia, I think a lot of Western companies are tapping into Asia because of demographics wise. So we have a internet native community. Philippines in particular, our median age is 25. So the adoption or understanding digital payments and digital environments is something innate to us, primarily because we are a young population, right? Whereas if you explain that you have to have an in-game token to a 60, 70-year-old person, they wouldn't understand. But
What is that?
yeah, but if you play if you play Ragnarok before, if you play Diablo before, that's something that, okay, it's like that. So you see these macro trends converging, and obviously the next bull run will be driven by institutional, and then that will flow down to the ladder. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that in very detailed insight. So what I got from that for those listening in the audience is, number one, institutions. Because definitely there's bigger money coming in. And it's not just individual players. And definitely second is community. Because if you have price movements, definitely communities play a role on how it would go. And definitely we have a community lead here as well. Maybe we would want to add more into what would fuel the crypto bull run.
Actually, I agree to everything that they said, because it's real. I mean, you will really see it if you're always talking with the community. You will feel that they're really into it. So I just want to highlight the institutional investments. It's really number one, right? And second would be the adoption of the governments. If the community sees that the governments trust them, or institutions are investing to cryptocurrency or blockchains, it's very easy to get their eyes and their attentions and their interests. RWA for sure, deepens for sure, but the two big ones are the easiest to catch the attention of the community. So institution and governments.
Very well said. So as we move forward, we've discussed about the institutions and how community plays a role. What's next is, if the community trusts the industry already, how about the security and the custody of these assets in the space? How is this affecting the bull run as well? The trust in the system or in the industry? Who wants to go first? Jen, maybe?
I'll go
Since
first.
you are the licensed
we
ones.
are. So there are different ways. So people would have different frameworks in terms of how they see trust, right? So people would trust their governments, and if it's something that their government looks after. And then you also look at incentives and fiduciary duties. So I guess in terms of trust, people, Arthur mentioned that he doesn't think that the government doesn't manage their treasury well. So that is easy for them to translate into, okay, I'll prefer to have custody of my assets, right? There are people who prefer, so it's a combination of, to what extent are you comfortable in terms of trusting yourself? Because if you don't trust the government, you have to trust yourself, right? So different variations of that. Some people want something in between. Some people have a diversified view of doing it. And then trust in a way of the platform, trust in yourself, and trust in the government. So, because if you don't trust the platform, then you just non-custodial wallets. If you don't trust yourself, you just put it in fiat, right? So those are
Yes.
the three main actors in that play. For us, we play in the trust in the government and trust in the platform, right? Because we believe that for mass adoption, that's where you need to start, right? And that's the basic on the security level and everything. That's the most basic. And then the next step is how do you have a good user experience so that they would trust you in terms of not on the fundamental level, but doing what's right and doing what the user wants, right? For us, we were granted our Philippine stablecoin. We were the first to offer it to retail
CBDC.
users. Not CBDC.
Not yet,
CBDC
okay.
is a central bank. So we were the first to be allowed by the central bank to issue our first, to issue the Philippine stablecoin. And what does that mean? It means that we have to convince people to move their PHP to fiat to us, right? And move it into crypto. And that is a combination of community building, a combination of telling them that these are the things that we attest to, and these are the guidelines that we follow. And I think that will drive retail to be comfortable about it. All of the mistakes of the last crypto bear was driven by fraud. And
Understood,
that is present in every iteration of new
That's
technology.
why security is very, very
Uh,
important.
Exactly. So I am not very so those things we have regulation to safeguard those things. And though you've seen like some persecutions in other countries, and some they receive like a sentencing. So those things I think will still continue to happen as we get more oversight, and that's just how it is because you're handling people's funds.
Definitely. And I think Pat or Arthur?
I'll go next.
Yeah.
So, well, for Polkadot's point of view, since we are a protocol, right? We don't do trust. We're not into trust perspective. We're into truth. So if you say you're gonna do it, I think it's important that you do it and you show it. It's the truth, right? Because if you say a lot of things and let's say you will deliver 50%. There 50% is trust, 50% is truth. So I think in terms of security, as a user, for example, I will only feel secured in this bull run if I see that the technology or this project is delivering what they're saying is they're gonna deliver, right? It's so dangerous, and one of the most dangerous things in bull run are the scammers, right? Like
Yes,
there's a
indeed.
lot of invitations, there's a lot of imitations. So I think in terms of security in bull run, it should be there should be more truth, there should be more implementation instead of planning. I think before bull run, everything should be planned, and as soon as it's bull, you do things. right?
Execute.
Yeah.
Definitely. Arthur?
So for the first time ever as a history mankind, it gives back the power as to the people. And it took right now since the emergence of blockchain has been incorporated, 2009, and we have seen how the evolution of technology has built to today. So we have so trust is something very important in FilLiquid. It's all about trust to us because there's no financial intermediary. And the DeFi protocols today are actually increasing, and it's the highest ever use case in the entire crypto space. Is because you are actually parking your money in a protocol that where there's nobody managing it, and it's all trusting in the technology and the smart contract to ensure that you will be getting that yield. So for example, like in FilLiquid, we built a total community as of to date about 40K in total. We've completed our 2 rounds of testnet, and we have just recently audited by very two reputable companies, which no strangers to the space, Certic and Salas at the same time. And because of this audited security, this is what exactly the users want because, hey, I'm putting my money over there. The smart contract will allow it to actually be ensuring to manage the yield management, to do the computation of the yield, the settlement and the clearance at the same time. And it's all about that trusting on the technology itself. And because it's the nature is permissionless, and hence more the reason that why everyone is jumping on the bandwagon. And just in DeFi itself, I think we're sitting in a very sweet spot in the Southeast Asia region. Why I would say that Southeast Asia will be the world gateway of the Web3 is simply because we are providing financial inclusivity. We're helping people out there to actually be enjoying the financial inclusivity that where they didn't get it from all this from the traditional banks. Like for example, having the credit score, taking loans, taking mortgage, and all this we have never witnessed. If I'm not mistaken, I think in the Philippines it's almost 60% unbanked population. And I think this is where with crypto adoption and the blockchain is giving trust to people and for them to be putting money in all these protocols and think this is where the decentralized finance it's just about to begin. And I think the journey will go a very long way. And I think I just been alarmed.
Yes, and
Yeah.
to summarize the past three discussions, so there's trust, there's truth,
And power to the people. So those engaging in the Web3 space, definitely those three things matter. And if you want to actually connect with everyone, you know who we are up there on the on the monitor. So definitely, again, my name is Prof. Toff with Miss Jen of Coins.ph, Arthur of FilLiquid, and Miss Pat of Polkadot Southeast Asia. And this has been the top trends fueling the crypto bull run. Thank you, AIBC Stage, and see you on our next panel.